captivating the people of the world for 8 seasons, Game of Thrones grew into a global phenomenon, bringing a new kind of fantasy into the mainstream that looks beyond the concepts of heroism and villainy to explore the battle between good and evil fought within the individual human heart. Based on the A Song of Ice and Fire novels by George R.R. Martin, the intricacy and brutal realism of the story has gained such a following that an entire industry of websites, blogs, podcasts, and YouTube channels emerged to analyze and discuss every aspect of the books and show. Seeking to explore just how it was Game of Thrones conquered pop culture, Tonic Books has published The Thrones Effect, written in collaboration by a number of respected A Song of Ice and Fire YouTubers, and which is now available as an ebook, in paperback, and as an audiobook, where many of the chapters are narrated by their author. After the introduction, written and read by Gil Cadrone of GOT Academy, who also led and edited the project, the book opens with the first chapter, Game of Thrones Characters and Ourselves, Fiction versus Our Inner Reality. Co-written by Gil and Noga of GOT Academy, they explore how a realistic portrayal of the human psyche allowed so many to become attached to these characters and the overall story. In Chapter 2, Game of Thrones is Everywhere and Everything, written by Aziz and Ashaya from History of Westeros. They examine how the books and show impacted our vernacular in unprecedented ways, being referenced in everything from other TV shows to catchphrases, baby names, and even scientific terms. In Chapter 3, When Spoilers and Sleuths Took Over Game of Thrones, by Val of Because Geek, she looks at how the story inspired a dedicated following to spawn its own independent media industry. In Chapter 4, George R. R. Martin's two dads, J.R.R. Tolkien and Maurice Druon, Fantasy and the History That Wasn't, written by the novelist Theo Ganji, a contributor to GOT Academy. He focuses on the two authors which most inspired George R. R. Martin to create his seminal work of fiction. For my own contribution, there is Chapter 5, Eye of the Beholder, where I explore the profound depth given to the setting, story, and characters, allowing the audience to form their own interpretation of events. Was Ned a valiant hero for trying to rise above politics, or a fool whose willful ignorance left the realm in chaos? Is Jaime a vain, dishonorable scoundrel who beds his sister, or an unsung hero who saved a city and just so happens to bed his sister? Opinions vary. In Chapter 6, Game of Thrones Didn't Start the Fire, by Gil of GOT Academy, he looks into the historical inspirations for the story and its realistic portrayal of medieval politics. In Chapter 7, How Did Game of Thrones Make Fantasy Feel So Real? Written by Gemma from Secrets of the Citadel, she discusses how Game of Thrones has deconstructed the fantasy genre and built something new in its place. In Chapter 8, Mastering the Uneasy Redemption, by Quinn from Ideas of Ice and Fire, he examines the revolutionary and emotionally effective redemption arcs of certain characters. In Chapter 9, There's No Magic and the Stories Are Just Stories, by M.J. Johnson of Grey Area. She discusses the constant tension between fantasy and reality, and how the story is able to feature magic and dragons, while remaining grounded in realism. In Chapter 10, Sunday is Coming, by Chris of Smokescreen, the final section of the book examines how watching the show became a cultural event, providing an escape from the ordinary to enter a fantastical realm. If you'd like to learn more about any of the authors or their channels, click on the links in the description box below, and don't forget to check out The Thrones Effect, How Game of Thrones Conquered Pop Culture, now available in all formats, and if possible, why not leave a review on the Amazon page to let us know your thoughts.